We're back in the Acura TLX,
Yeah.
which we drove before, and I ranted a lot. I know I did, because I kept coming back to the number one issue, which is here is a massive car with a great design and terrible interior space.
Okay, we'll start there. We'll start in the interior space.
Because
this is a large car.
And I want to walk away from it because we covered it a lot last time. There's a lot of other things to say, but this it didn't gain space getting the Type-S.
Well, it's pretty much the same everything, except for a lot of chassis stiffening, different engine. Everything has been tweaked for the Type-S designation. But as a sedan, yeah, it's a large car, long wheelbase, and I love that Honda and Acura are doing this.
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast,
and YouTube channels dedicated to great cars, driving adventures, and helping you find a car you'll love.
subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing.
For the front two passengers, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
I wish the seat would go down a little bit further, but for now, I'm actually great.
For as big as it is, it should have a little bit more space, even for the front two seats, but it's acceptable. And you can get to a position where you're like, I like being here.
I could see road tripping in this, just like this.
Just the two of you could road trip somewhere.
Yeah, be nice.
Because this is, I finally landed on it since we drove it the last time. This is a 2+2 with 4 doors.
It's bad for tall people like us. We're both 6'3".
Yes,
we have different body types.
Sure, yes.
But it's not good for a 5'6" person because you had your mom in the back seat.
She
so
couldn't get in the back
seat.
seat.
For us, fine.
Yes.
But if it's not good for somebody who's average to small, and still mentions this isn't great, that's a bit of a wake-up call.
Absolutely.
Now, to be fair, the Genesis G70 we noticed doesn't have great interior rear space.
Back space either. Yes.
Audi A4s don't. The BMW 3 Series isn't the best. What I love is function has taken a back seat to the form. It's low, it's wide, it's beautiful, it's long, and clearly the design won over, and then let's put people in it.
This has got a bespoke engine for this car.
It does.
A 3-liter V6 dual scroll turbo making 355 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. I don't know why they just didn't say they were both 355 and call it a day.
Are you going to feel that one extra torque?
No,
you're not.
We're down one. I'm sorry. This has almost 100 more of both than the standard version. Now, I should also specify this is not a Type R. Honda's known, Acura known for their Type R.
Sure.
It's not a Type R. This is the Type S, so it's aiming at things like the Audi S4.
Right.
So
I think a
above
Type
the
R
base,
would be aimed at an M3 kind of thing.
This gets 0 to 60 in around 5 seconds, which honestly is much better than the last one, but it's not like wow in the market. It's solid.
Sure.
The thing I've really noticed about this is a couple things. First off, it doesn't have blow you away speed. I think some of the other things in this market get down closer to like 4.5 or even close to 4 seconds.
Right.
As its competitors.
Right.
But this one, loaded, is 54 grand. And those guys just starting at around 54. Okay, they just barely get started. So there is a lot of value here. This has front double wishbone suspension, and a lot of those don't. And it has super handling all-wheel drive for the first time on the Type S.
Throwing the torque around, this does have true torque vectoring. The cool thing is, like the other TLX, it throws 70% of its power to the rear axle and then 100% left or right. So it does act like a rear-wheel drive car. The extra percentage at the front does pull you through the corner, even on summer performance tires, even in cold weather. And it's astounding. It's great.
The more I drive it, the more one big thing strikes me.
Okay.
This is the closest the market offers right now to the Mitsubishi Evo.
Oh, that's interesting.
The market doesn't offer it anymore. Mitsubishi stopped making it. It had all of the power moving around to the right wheel to make it defy gravity and to make it do weird things in the corner where you can chuck it into a corner and put the power down and the car sorts it out. And I miss that from the Evo because I loved the Evo and it's gone. And I think it's kind of back right here.
I'm glad you said that. That's interesting.
The Evo was never a utility car. It had back seats, but they weren't great. The trunk was terrible. The trunk on this is halfway decent. The back seats aren't good. But
I'm intrigued with this thought.
The executive Mitsubishi Evolution. It's the executive equivalent. It's not the fastest out there, but I also think this. I think there is only one sedan on the market that's better looking than this one, and that's the Alfa Giulia. I think this is second place. Everything else is fighting for, we kind of styled it. This looks phenomenal. It has super handling all-wheel drive. I wish it used its space better.
And you might have heard from us that we're not liking the car. But what I'm hearing is we both love it. It's just the space utilization is taking a back seat to the form.
Yep.
So now you have to decide, what are you going after? Are you really using your back seats rarely? Are you, just commuting? Is it a road trip and you kind of have adults back there that are, short trips?
Sure,
okay, fine.
sure, yeah.
If that's the case, this is a solid contender. This is almost the leader in its class of anything that you shop because of price. I didn't like the last TLX with the lesser engine and essentially not the Type-S version because I thought it was too expensive for what you're getting. Now I think this is a bargain for what you're getting.
That's
because
key.
you get more power and it's fun to drive.
Yes,
That's my
do
takeaway.
agree with that.
I love this car. I think it's brilliant. I love the styling. I think it's a standout, and you buying it, you driving it, you'll be discerning. Oh, it's a Type-S. And if you're comfortable up here and you rarely use the back seats, okay.
I agree with that. I think this is for those people that write our podcast every now and then and say, I really want a sports car, but my significant other has insisted I have 4 doors.
Yeah.
You can just slide under the wire with this car. I mean, here's the thing. You could have bought a GR86, which is tiny compared to this, and have almost as usable back seats, but you don't have the extra 2 doors. So you kind of slipped one by the significant other that once you get an SUV here, because you go, look, honey, it's a big 4-door. It's not a big 4-door. It's not. But the front seats are good, and the dynamics are good, and I keep coming away driving this thinking, this is one of those fantastic alts in the market.
Yeah.
Everybody's buying, you're buying an Audi, you're buying a Mercedes, you buy the BMW. Oh, I want to drift out of those, I'll get into Lexus, I'll get to Infiniti. Why aren't you shopping the Type-S if what you're looking for is the executive missile that surprises you on a back road? And this is the closest to the Evo right now. I keep getting myself excited about that. To the point it even has the screen here that shows you which wheel's doing what. That was something I always loved about the Evo, was just the fact that nobody expected it to be as agile as it was. And like the GTR, it was one of those where I'm in a corner now, what I should do is add power, and nobody else is driving that way. This does all of that, which is very cool and very unique in the market. I wish it wasn't so big. 4,200 pounds. This is really heavy.
It doesn't feel like 4,200 pounds.
It doesn't, but that's astonishingly big.
Interestingly, it's a 59-41 weight distribution. So 59% of the weight of the car is up front. It's ahead of the center line here.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. It's far more agile, and super handling all-wheel drive is no longer just a gimmicky marketing term. It never really was, but it has come to life. It brings this thing to life.
It's really good.
I am so intrigued by your Evo comment because I was thinking this is about a mid-2000s BMW. Maybe not an M3, but the kind of feeling that you get when you're feeling all this mechanical goodness. That's what I've always loved about Honda's top products. You're feeling a little bit of rawness. You're feeling some mechanical nature. It's not all insulated like the Germans do to you, like Lexus does. It's not just insulating you from the driving experience. You're feeling some mechanical goodness through turns as you're under acceleration, and it keeps you connected to the car. That is here in the Type-S, and that's what I didn't find in the lower TLX and other cars. That is missing, and it's here, which is great.
Of course, it has electronic power steering. It's not really like a steering feel awesomeness. It has a 10-speed automatic, which has pedals, but is surprisingly aware of what you need. If you put it into super sport mode, which it's actually you've got to go over
Sport
to.
Plus.
You've got to go to Sport and then Sport Plus by holding it. Everything gets more aggressive. The shifts sometimes in Sport Plus, it's more aggressive than you need. I'm the guy that I put it into Sport Plus because I'm going to go to the grocery store. And then I realize, you know what? That's actually too much for that situation. I need to be on a road that's worth it. There are a couple of other cars I think are worth cross-shopping with this, but I won't talk about those until you're driving.
Okay, all right.
We'll scream out bro and do that.
Walk your eyes around the exterior of the car. The proportions are gorgeous. It's a very long nose. It's very classic sedan proportions. Again, what that has done is you can tell the designers won, which secretly I kind of like.
I know you do.
But the problem is the backseat space is so minimal. The trunk is great, but there's so many aggressive lines on here, and they taper at those quad pipes. The inner two are the active exhaust. So those open above 4,000. I believe it's 4,000, but nevertheless, you have to be in Sport Plus for those to open, and it's really aggressive, and it actually sounds pretty good. But otherwise, the front fascia's a little bit different than the regular car, and you get piano black everywhere. On the exterior, I don't mind it quite as much because it just says subtle aggression. Not much has changed in the interior from the instrument panel design perspective, but I do like that it's laid back. And what's most important about the car is the dynamic mode. It's front and center. It's the largest knob on here. Drive is second, and the volume knob is third. So there's a clear hierarchy of what's most important to the car.
That's good.
So this dynamic mode, as Todd said, you push and hold, or you turn and hold all the way to the right, and that puts you in Sport Plus. The car comes to life, and it idles at 1,000 RPM. So it idles higher. It's like
everything
tensed and ready to go.
Yes.
You feel the car just on it, ready, which is fantastic.
Other things that changed here, and I have to speak on usability one more time, and that is they put support braces across the back seats. Luckily, the trunk is decent size. I do think this is one of those long-distance fun bombers. You mentioned it already, and it would be really good for that. You're right. This seat doesn't go down as far. That's weird.
I'm comfortable over here now.
That's just weird. It's
I'm
not.
great.
And I'm not quite right here. Anyway,
This is a single-passenger car.
it is a single. It's BAC mono. Acura TLX Type-S. There's the equivalent, right?
Totally.
This is a third of the cost of that. But if you're going to shop something this scale, again, 4,200 pounds and a large footprint, and you need a four-door car, here's the two competitors actually came up with.
Okay.
The Kia Stinger GT.
Yeah.
A little more powerful, a little bit faster, has usable back seats and a huge hatch.
Sure.
The other place you could go for similar money, because the Stinger GT is about this money or a little bit less. The other one is possibly the Dodge Charger. Get yourself just into the beginning of the Hemi. But you say that, but it's 4,400 pounds. This is 4,200 pounds.
It doesn't. There's a difference in feel, though.
It
feels like the weight in that car. This does not feel like
more agile than the Charger does.
It really does.
Absolutely does. But then you get big V8 shoutiness. You get huge back seats, copious amounts of front seat space, and a massive trunk. So if you are shopping this class looking for four doors that have performance, I think those are better choices for similar money.
Okay.
This is such a fantastic connoisseur alt, though.
Yeah. The more I drive it, the more I like it.
I was that way too.
Sport Plus is pretty aggressive. If you want to shift yourself, you push the drive button again, so over to S, and then you can shift yourself. But the transmission, even though it's an automatic, it's tuned much like a Giulia.
Yes.
It's really quick.
It's very quick.
You'll think, is this a dual? No, it's an
seems
automatic.
Like it.
But it's really good. It's got that quicker variable steering ratio. It is pretty quick. And then when you throw it into a corner, it feels like the rear-wheel drive car magic, and then the front pulls you through.
Yeah, it does.
You can add power. And now it's time for a breakdown. I think that sounds good.
It does sound good. It does sound good. It pulls really well.
It really does. It's not the quickest thing, but it moves.
And
moves
you,
well.
you just doing that pull right there onto the freeway reminds me of something else that I think happens with this power delivery. Again, that 0 to 60 for this is around 5 seconds, and there's other competitors we've already talked about that are faster than this in the straight line bolt.
Yeah.
I think this doesn't do very well in that 0 to 20, 0 to 30 range. It's 30 and above, you start to go, oh, wait a minute.
That's where it's usable, though.
And exactly. And so when you're on the freeway, and when I've driven this on backwards and on the freeway in the week that we've had it, what I've found is this is one of those cars that's just long-legged at speed. The getting it up to speed, you feel like, you know what, it's a big car.
It moves.
It's a big car, it's got decent speed, whatever. But then you get on the freeway and you go, how am I going 90?
Yeah.
That happens all the time. Or you're going 60 and you go around somebody and now you're suddenly going 90. It has that more usable, that 50 to 70, that 60 to 90 range that you use to get around somebody on a freeway. That's when this thing comes to life.
Agreed.
But it doesn't work very well in just like the straight line blast from a light. I think there's plenty of stuff that is actually as fast or faster. But in that usable, let's take a road trip, you're going to be surprised at the speed and surprised at the corners.
Yeah.
You're killing it right now.
So you can use that power and add power through corners, and the car's going to pull you through. It's almost like your tires don't matter. almost.
But this is actually
it's surprising
this is
how
the
good
performance
it is.
tire pack, which
is.
is actually listed on the Monroney that it has the performance tire
yes.
pack. So there's a couple
the
extra
P0s.
$1,000 to get better tires on it, which of course are great, and that always helps. But it's that add power for cornering that most cars don't do, and the Evo, the GTR, and this are the only three I can think of that do it really well.
I think you're right. I feel it in the Evo, and that is mechanical interaction that all the other luxury cars that cost more insulate you from.
Yep.
Whereas here, I'm actually being allowed to feel not just the corner, but I'm feeling mechanical nature of the car, which makes it interesting. It makes it engaging.
Yeah.
It's almost enough to overcome the shortcomings of the rear seat. Again, you're going to have to determine your own backseat needs.
Yes.
But this is such a find because of the price. It gives you all this stuff, and I really like it.
It comes down to the buyer, and the buyer has to be like, those seats are big enough.
Yeah.
And if that's and frankly, that applies to the front seats too. It has to be, this is enough space for us as a family, front and rear, and then you get all this performance, and you don't have, if you will, the very aggressive rattle can nature of the Evo that I liked, but is not something you want for a family car, and it's not for most people commuting. You don't have that.
And for long distances, you don't want that Evo.
You don't want it at all.
Especially the
No, you definitely
GSR.
don't. Absolutely. Being here and having stuff that feels reminiscent of that while giving you a luxury sedan thing, I think is a victory. I mean, they launched this car at Laguna Seca, and I think that's not quite right. It's not a track car.
It's a step too far.
This is a big executive cruiser that has surprising amounts of power and agility.
For a great price.
And a great price, yes.
It's unlike Subaru, it's unlike Mitsubishi. They figured something out that makes it engaging to drive. It is a modern, attainable car that you can buy that's just fun. I'm looking forward to driving this car whenever I'm in it.
The standard TLX didn't have enough power or dynamics to overcome the natural problems that this still has.
Yeah.
It's just now I'm more willing to overlook it because I can see this is
difference.
Dad's four-door sports car.
Yes.
It's not Dad's four-door sedan, which is not acceptable. It's not, they didn't use the space well enough, and it is a huge car.
You're not going to get over, so I'm going to go around you. Add throttle. That's too easy.
It really is.
That's just too easy.
It really is, yeah.
And that's satisfying. I love driving this thing. I think what I like the most about this is that Acura has found their own flavor. They have found what differentiates them in the marketplace. They're not for everybody. The usefulness is not for everyone. And I think they're fine with it.
They're going to have to be. This is where they
for
fucked
sure.
up.
But if you like how this drives and it does fit your life and you love how it looks, this is a compelling choice and you're saving money. And for that reason, I feel like I found Acura's flavor, this mechanical nature.
Okay.
But I like that they're kind of planting a stake in the ground and they're still giving us performance sedans, even in the modern era.
It's a very compelling option here.
Yeah.